Dear students, today I'll be explaining you The Merchant of Venice, and we will be doing Act 1, Scene 2. This scene takes place in Belmont, a room in Portia's house, and there are two main characters in this scene, Portia and Nerissa. About Portia, you've already read in Act 1, Scene 1. She is a rich heiress of Belmont, and Bassanio wants to marry her. Nerissa is Portia's attendant. In the very first dialogue of Portia, she says, "By my troth, Nerissa, my little body is aweary of this great world." By my troth means by my faith or truly. Aweary means tired. Portia says, Nerissa, that her little body is tired of this great world. So the opening of Act 1, Scene 2 and Act 1, Scene 1 are similar in sense that in Act 1, Scene 1, Antonio expresses his sadness in the beginning of the scene. Similarly, Portia is also expressing her depressive mood in the beginning of the scene. To this, what Portia has said in the first dialogue, that her little body is tired of this great world, Nerissa replies, "You would be, sweet madame, if your miseries were in the same abundance as your good fortunes are." Nerissa says that you would be tired, dear madam, since you have many miseries as you have good fortunes. So Nerissa is making Portia realize that she is so fortunate. She has almost all the comforts of life, and there is no reason for her to be tired of this entire world. She says that if your miseries were equivalent to the good fortunes, then you would have a reason to be tired of this great world. Then she says that, and yet for aught I see, they are sick that surfeit with too much, as they that starve with nothing. She compares two categories, two extremes. She says that people who have too much, surfeit means are overfed, means who have excess. Here it means excess of wealth. Who have excess are sick as those who starve with nothing, means those who have nothing. So he's trying to say that people who have too much are equally sick as people who have nothing. It is no mean happiness, therefore, to be seated in the mean. Mean means middle position. You calculate mean while you do your mathematic problems, no? So mean means the middle position. So in this line she says, it's also explained here in reference, line number 6 to 8. It is no small happiness to be situated in the position midway between poverty and riches. So she's trying to say that a middle position between the poor and the richer is the best position, and that is the position where people are happier. They are most happy when they are happier when they are seated in the middle position, in the mean position. Superfluity comes sooner by white here, but competency lives longer. So in this line, that is again there in the reference, those who have too much of anything will age sooner. So in this line, Nerissa is trying to say that people who have too much of wealth, they have grey hair very soon. But people who have just enough resources to survive, they live a longer life. On hearing this, Portia says, "Good sentences and well pronounced." She means that you have spoken very well said. That is what Portia means. Nerissa says, "They would be better if well followed." She says that it would be better if you follow what I have said. So now in the next extract, Portia will try to make her point by saying that it is very easy to know, but it's very difficult to follow the same. So she tries to prove that thing by giving various examples. So in the first part she says, "If to do were as easy as to know what were good to do." So she's saying that if it was as easy to know and similarly it was easy to do, Then she says, chapels had been churches. Chapels are small places of worship. And churches, as you know, are magnificent and big monuments. They are huge monuments that seem to be very beautiful. Whereas chapels are normally built small places where people go for worship. He says, if to know and to do were equally easy, then chapels would have been churches and poor men's cottages princes' palaces. He says that if to know and to do were equally easy, then chapels would be churches and poor men's houses would be princes' palaces. Again, poor men's cottages means here, small houses where poor people live. They would be princes' palaces, who are totally in contrast to the poor man's cottages. So I'll explain you this by giving an example. See, as students, all of you know what is good for you. All of you know that it's better for you to study hard. You should have a proper timetable and you should follow that. You will be soon giving your board exams, and it's time for you to study and to attain good marks. So that is, all of you know that. But how many of you follow the same? How many of you follow the rules and regulations so that you score well? So that is the difference. No, all of you know that what you need to do, but to follow the same is difficult. What Portia is trying to say is that if to know and to follow was equally easy, then chapels would have been churches and poor man's cottages would have been princes' palaces. It is a good divine that follows his own instructions. Portia says in this line, good divine means a priest, a preacher. So you say, the one who follows his own instruction is a good preacher. So, you might have heard many preachers preaching so much that one should be honest, one should be always speak the truth, and, you should help your fellow men, and various other things, that are considered to be followed by almost every human being. So almost all the preachers, they convey the same things. So you should be kind to everybody, you should love your fellow man, you should be honest. But according to Portia, one who follows his own instructions, so these are the instructions, given by different preachers. So one who follows his own instruction, according to Portia, is a good preacher. I can easier teach 20 what were good to do be done. So Portia is saying that she can easily teach 20 men what is good to be done, than be one of the 20 to follow mine own teaching. Portia says that I can easily teach 20 people what is good for them. But she cannot be one of those 20 and follow her own teaching. So it's very easy to teach, but it's very difficult to follow. Follow what you yourself have taught. The brain may devise laws for the blood. So brain here is your reason, your mind. So your mind frames laws for blood. Blood here means your body. So your mind frames laws for your body to follow. But a hot temper leaps over a cold decree. So hot temper means heat of desires. Disobeys cold laws. So laws that are framed by your mind. So I'll again be explaining you this by giving an example. Usually when you have your exams approaching, so what most of you do, you try to frame a proper timetable that you'll get up early in the morning, and then you frame a proper timetable that this is the time you'll freshen up, and you will study science for say 1 hour, and then you'll start studying mathematics for another 2 hours, and then you'll start studying English. So everybody has a proper timetable. That is what is framed by your mind. Your brain frames that for you. So that are the rules and regulation that your brain frames for your body to follow, right? But then what happens when you see your mobile phone in front of you, or you see television in front of you, you see your laptop in front of you? You are immediately tempted by that. by you immediately run after your desire and you forget what your mind had framed for you, right? So this is what Portia is trying to explain here. She's saying that brain may devise laws for the blood, that brain forms different laws for the body, but hot temper here means your desires, over a cold decree, leaps over a cold decree. Leaps means jump. Your hot temper, your desires, they do not let you follow the rules and regulations that are framed by the brain. Such a here is madness of youth. Here is male of rabbit. You have heard a story of hare and tortoise, no? So this is the same here. Hare is known to be very active. So now in this line, this Portia is trying to say that this madness of youth is similar to hare. The hare, the animal that's known for its activeness. To skip over the meshes of good counsel, the cripple. So saying that this reference is again given on the right hand side of your textbook, reference number 21 to 23, saying youthful high spirits are like a hare which easily leaps over the nets of limping good advice. He's saying that while you are young, your spirits are as high as hare, and that does not allow you to follow the advice of your brain, and you easily disobey all the laws framed by your mind and you follow your desires. But this reason is not in the fashion to choose me a husband. Then she realizes that why am I giving so many reasons? Because she doesn't have a choice to choose a husband for her own. She's saying this reasoning is useless for me, since I cannot choose a husband of my own. Oh me, the word choose. I may neither choose whom I would nor refuse whom I dislike. So she realizes that she is left with no choice. She can neither choose the one whom she likes, neither she can refuse the one whom she dislikes. So the will of living daughter curbed by the will of dead father. So she's talking about her own father. So what is the will of her father? The will of her father is that he has devised a casket system. So there are 3 caskets, gold, silver and lead. And one of the casket contains portrait of Portia. And the suitor who chooses the right casket will marry Portia. So this system is devised by her father. That is the will of her father. And the will of her daughter is, who is the daughter here? Daughter here is Portia. What is her will? What is her wish? Her wish is to marry a man of her own choice. But the wish of the daughter is curbed by the will of dead father, because he has devised a specific system according to which Portia can get married. So she is left with no choice. She has to marry whosoever chooses the right casket. Is it not hard, Naresa, that I cannot choose one nor refuse one? Now she is asking a question to Naresa, that isn't it hard that she cannot choose the man she likes, nor can she refuse the one she dislikes. Naresa, on hearing this, says, your father was ever virtuous, and holy men at their death have good inspirations. So says that your father was a pious and holy man, and such good men have inspiration at the time of their death. Therefore, the lottery that he had devised in these 3 chests of gold, silver and lead. She's saying, therefore, the lottery which he had devised in the caskets, in form of casket, that is gold, silver and lead, whereof who chooses his meaning chooses you. She says that one who chooses the correct casket chooses you, means gets the right to marry you, will no doubt never be chosen by any rightly, but one who shall rightly love. So she says that no doubt that the casket will be chosen by chosen by a person who will truly love you. So she is actually consoling Portia. Portia seems to be very sad because she expresses her sadness that she cannot choose the one she likes, neither can she refuse the one she dislikes. So Portia, Nerissa is consoling her by saying that your father was a pious man, was a holy man, and such good men at time of their death, they have good inspirations, and that is why he has devised this system of casket for you, and one who chooses the right casket has the right to marry you. And according to Nerissa, only the casket will not be chosen by any rightly, means it's not any rightly. He may or may not, one who chooses the right casket may or may not be a perfect man, a right man, but he will definitely love Portia rightly, means he will definitely find a man who loves Portia. But what warmth is there in your affection towards any of the princely suitors that are already come? So there are different suitors who have arrived at Belmont, and they are there to choose the casket. They have come to choose the casket, and they wish to marry Portia. So now Nerissa is asking that what is your opinion regarding the suitors who have come there to marry you? She says that, do you have any special love for any of the princely suitors who have already come, who have come to choose the right casket? On hearing this, Portia says, I pray thee, means I request you, name them, and as thou namest them, I will describe them, and according to my description, level my affection. She says that, name them one by one, and as you will name them, I will describe them, and according to my comments, you may conclude my love for them. This is according to the description I give you about them, you can conclude that how much affection I have for them. Nerissa. First, there is Neapolitan prince. So the first suitor is Neapolitan prince, prince from Naples. Portia says, that's colt indeed. So colt is young horse. So Portia compares Neapolitan prince to a young horse. For he doth nothing but talk of his horse. So why is she comparing him to horse? Because he does nothing but he just talks about his horse. And he makes it a great appropriation to his own good parts that he can shew him himself. So he says, and he makes it great appropriation. He considers it to be a great achievement that he can shoe his horse himself. So she doesn't say much about Neapolitan prince. What she says is, one, she calls him a colt. Second, she says that he does nothing but just talks about his horse. Third, she says that he boasts saying that it's a great achievement for him, for he can shoe his horse himself. In addition to other merits, he has one more merit, that is that he can shoe his own horse. Nerissa. Then there is County Palatine. So the second suitor is County Palatine. Portia. He doth nothing but frown. So Portia says that he does nothing but only frown. Frown means to have a sad face. So he's saying that this suitor, he does nothing but just frowns. As who should say, and you will not have me choose, he says, because who will say that it doesn't matter whether I choose you or not. So he's saying according to his behavior, it seems as if it doesn't matter to him whether he chooses Portia or not. He hears merry tales and smiles not. So as she already said earlier that he is of a frowning nature. So says he hears happy tales, he hears happy stories, but he does not smile. I fear he will prove the weeping philosopher when he grows old. So Portia is afraid that when he grows old, he will turn out to be a weeping philosopher. So who is a weeping philosopher? Weeping philosopher was a man who remained very sad, and he went in the mountains because he was depressed because of the mankind, and he spent his life in the mountains only. So this County Palatine is compared to this weeping philosopher. See the reference number 54, it's given, who was a weeping philosopher who went to live alone in the mountains because he was so distressed by the mankind's stupidity. So he was depressed because of the worldly matters, and that is why he went to live in the mountains. And this County Palatine is compared to weeping philosopher because of his habit of frowning. I fear he will prove to be a weeping philosopher when he grows old, being so full of unmannerly sadness in his youth. He says, since he is so full of unmannerly sadness, he is so full of sadness in his youth, that when he grows old, he will turn out to be a weeping philosopher. I had rather be married to death's head with bone in his mouth than to either of these. So saying it's better that she would get married to a skull with bone in its mouth than either of these. Than either of these here means County Palatine and Neapolitan Prince. Saying it's better she gets married to a skull with bone in its mouth than marrying to County Palatine and Neapolitan Prince. God defend me from these two. So she prays that God should protect her from the two suitors about which we have talked about just now. So I will be repeating once again Portia's description about County Palatine. She says that he has habit of frowning, as if he's saying that if you do not want me, choose anyone you wish. She says that as if his expressions and attitude conveys that as if he is trying to say that if you do not want me, you can choose anyone you wish. So that is what his attitude reveals. If you do not want me, you can choose anybody, any other suitor if you do not want me, right? So he doesn't care, careless attitude. Then he says that he hears happy stories, but he does not smile. Fourth thing about County Palatine is that Portia says that she is afraid that he will turn out to be a weeping philosopher when he becomes old because of his unpleasant sadness in his youth. At last she says that she would prefer to marry a skull with bone in its mouth than marrying either of two, than marrying Neapolitan Prince and County Palatine. Then at last she says, God defend me from these two, means God protect me from the both.